What's the matter with you?
Well, you know that new Predator movie that came out not too long ago, Predator Badlands? I finally got around to watching it, and after I did, I decided to go ahead and binge watch all the other movies in one night.
I won't lie, I did enjoy those first two movies.
Yeah, a lot of the older movies still hold up. There's a few in the newer sections that are kind of meh, but the majority of them are pretty good. And that kind of gives me an idea for a video. Hold up one second. Why don't we just go ahead and rank all these bad boys from worst to best? What do you think, Nigel?
Oh, bother.
Predator, a film franchise that has firmly rooted itself into pop culture to the point that it'd be easier to find a unicorn than someone who hasn't at least seen one of the films or at least heard one of the many quotable lines.
One ugly motherfucker.
Just like its sister franchise Alien, it's had a bumpy ride over the years with each entry in the franchise, ranging from critically acclaimed to franchise death in not one but two different cases. And since I just binge watched all of these films in the past couple days, just for craps and giggles, I think I'll be ranking all the Predator films from worst to best. Due to the most recent entry in the series making a push to blend the Alien franchise with the Predator franchise, I will also be including the AVP films as well. Please keep in mind, this is not a comprehensive list. I'm not going to be including film scores. This is primarily just me blabbing about a film franchise that's near and dear to my heart. So my list will most definitely differ from yours, especially on some of the more popular entries in this franchise. And if that is indeed the case, I'd love to hear what y'all's thought on the franchise is.
However, if you're too much of a stinker about it, then go make your own video.
Was that necessary?
Yes, people online can be relentless when they feel slighted.
Well, anyway, for the video, I will be referring to the Predators by their actual in-universe name, coined all the way back in '94, the Yacha. Yeah, Disney did not come up with that name. It got coined all the way back in an AVP spin-off book after the original AVP comic series ran its course. Now that we have some context, let's get into it. Starting at the bottom, we have AVP Requiem. Story-wise, it takes place immediately after the events of AVP. The Yacha ship crash lands after a Pred alien kills the crew and starts repopulating a sleepy town in the middle of US suburbia. The Yacha respond by sending one veteran hunter named Wolf to clean up the mess and dispose of the aliens before the situation gets too far out of hand. And right out of the gate, this movie is unwatchable in places. Not just at the poor attempts to be dark and edgy, but mainly in how the film is lit. There are spots where it's just too damn dark to make out anything. That, coupled with some of the incompetent camera positions and human characters that feel like they were plucked directly out of another horror film, this movie is just a mess. And I really can't think of much I like about Requiem other than the Yacha himself. Wolf is straight up one of the coolest hunters in the series. 2 shoulder cannons, laser traps, a bladed whip, and he even takes off one of his cannons and turns into a plasma shotgun. It's awesome, and he doesn't play around. He's there to do a job by killing these Xenos and erasing their existence. That is until the movie needs trailer bait.
Units reported.
This movie could have been enjoyable if it wasn't for the other characters getting in the way. If they would have put Wolf at any other film, it would have been awesome. But instead, he's stuck with little Timmy getting bullied because he's trying to get with one of the jocks' ex-girlfriend. Like I said, it feels like it comes right out of another film. And the supposed protagonist isn't much better. Little Timmy's brother is an ex-convict trying to get his life together after coming home from prison. Okay, fine, the backstory works. Sort of. Not really. I kinda like the soldier coming home to her husband and daughter. Her husband's xeno food by the midway point.
See? No monster.
And she's mainly just going through the film protecting her daughter. I'm with that. But everybody else, I couldn't give two shits.
Molly, come on, run!
I would say try to enjoy the action and the horror, but you really can't see any of it. Here's one scene right now. Can you make out any of it? I can't tell if I need to put up a censor bar or not. It's just that poorly lit. And this is why this movie is sitting square at the bottom. Bad direction, lazy writing, horrible lighting. Tropey characters drop this movie in a sewer where a large chunk of the runtime takes place. I'm not joking. A quarter of this movie's runtime takes place in dimly lit sewers, probably where they found the script. And speaking of floating crap, let's move on to number 8. The Predator, not to be confused with the original Predator. Yeah, that's one thing most of these movies had in common. When it came to naming, using the numerical system or subtitles was a big no-no for some damn reason. So they came up with odd naming gimmicks for these titles. And it sucks because it's kind of hard to figure out where they sit in numerical order. It's stupid. But odd naming gimmick aside, I guarantee if you haven't seen this movie, you've heard nothing but terrible things about it. Most of the criticisms are valid. This is not a good entry in the franchise at all. Story-wise, I couldn't tell you where this movie took place in the continuity, but from what I could tell, this movie's been wiped from canon, period. That could change tomorrow given how fickle 20th Century's parent company is these days. Now, if you care, the general gist of this movie is a Yacha fugitive is flees to Earth and then crash lands because of course he does. I think it's kind of a common denominator that all aliens fleeing to Earth crash land. He lands right in the middle of the Special Forces operation. One of the soldiers swipes his tech because he's too busy stringing up nearby soldiers. Like, priorities, dude? Why? Grab your stuff and hide. That's what you're supposed to do instead of trying to take trophies. It's just stupid, and because he's doing this, his gauntlet mask gets swiped. He tries to get him back, but the equipment has friendly fire turned on. Smart. He ends up getting hit in the stomach, knocking his ass out, and he gets picked up by the men in black, while the soldier who grabs his tech mails all this stuff to his estranged wife and autistic son before getting sent to a holding group with a bunch of ex-soldiers called the Loonies. I'm not making this up. This is the actual story. A unit called the Loonies. And on top of that, there's a Yacha hunter looking for the fugitive and the technology that he brought to Earth. And I know what you're thinking. This movie feels bloated and stupid. That's because it is. The Predator was a failed attempt by Fox to try to reboot the franchise, but instead of breathing new life into the Predator series, it killed it outright, being a financial failure across the board and the most poorly received film in the franchise by both critics and long-term fans. Everybody hated this film, and because of that, Fox put this series on ice, discontinuing all planned projects moving forward. So yeah, enjoy that cliffhanger ending. Where are you going?
I've seen enough. I have a colonoscopy I would rather get to.
Party pooper. But for the sake of the video, I went back and rewatched it. Yeah, it is by far the worst mainline film in the franchise, hands down. I kind of admit I had fun with it. As a Predator film, it sucks ass, but as a satire of the series, it's kind of funny in the sense it's so bad it's good territory. Don't get me wrong, it is dog shit. I cannot repeat myself enough. Characters go out in stupid ways. The writing is insanely stupid. It feels like a G4 sketch, and that's not because Olivia Munn is one of the actors. And if you remember how old G4 skits used to go, that's how this movie feels. Like here, they talk about the terminology of calling a Yacha a predator. They don't use the name Yacha. They call it a predator, like what we've been doing, which makes sense because when you want to talk about the alien and predator, you call it predator. Here is stupid because they talk about how a predator hunts for sustenance while this thing is a trophy hunter. Makes sense, but then they contradict themselves when they talk about how they're collecting spinal cords to take DNA out, inject into themselves. Again, bringing it back to hunting for sustenance because they are taking it to benefit themselves. That makes it a predator again. Fans of the franchise all across the board thought this was absolutely stupid, and it is. And it's crying shame because Shane Black can write good scripts, but here it's so comic book-like and quippy, it feels like a Phase 1 Marvel movie. Oh yeah, he co-wrote Iron Man 3. And when this movie came out, Avengers and Deadpool also made a splash in the movie space. I'm starting to get a picture here, and that's probably why this movie flopped the way it did. Where the other films were a bit goofy on page, they took their plot seriously for the most part, opening with an action scene or something equivalent and then progressing forward with the slow build-up. But here, it's jokes from beginning to end. Nothing is taken seriously, and it feels especially so with the actors because they never shut up. I mean, the action is watchable, unlike AVP Requiem, but that's hitting low-hanging fruit. I admit, I'm not so snobbish that I won't laugh at some jokes.
Eat your
What?
How you doing?
No, you just said eat your.
Hey, how you doing?
No, you said eat my. What the is wrong with him?
I said you're pushy. You said you're pushy.
No, you said eat.
I said sheesh, you're pushy.
I laughed, I admit it. I'm kind of juvenile when it comes to stuff like this, but I will say the use of the autistic boy as a throwaway plot device is outright scummy, and they should have known better. But this slot belongs down here at number 8. I don't see putting it any higher, and I can't put it any lower because that's how bad Requiem is. But now we're out of the weeds and into the popcorn flicks. Not great, but will probably be watched again. Number 7, Killer of Killers, our first Disney movie on the list. I know it's supposed to be 20th Century Studios, but it's Disney. Come on. Now, when trailers for this film first started to drop, I kind of rolled my eyes, but the more I read about it, the more it kind of intrigued me. A anthology in the same vein as Animatrix with different Yacha hunting warriors through the ages. Okay, it started to peak, and then I learned that the animation was being handled by the same artist who did Blue-Eyed Samurai. That got me on board. I was ready to watch this, and then I did. I enjoyed the first half. I really did. I thought the first two sections with Ursa and Kenji were pretty good. Especially Kenji's section taking place in feudal Japan with ninjas and samurai. That was awesome. Ursa was a little bit slower, but it felt good. And whoever wrote this movie just told us which games he was playing at the time, and it had to have been Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Sucker Punch's Ghost of Tsushima. Sadly, after the Hunt Japan, we shift to the German theater in World War II. A Yacha shooting down P-51 Mustangs and P-47 Thunderbolts makes no sense to me. How is the Yacha going to go and collect trophies with the planes being ripped apart? There's nothing left of the pilot to collect. What's he going to do? Grab a wing and throw it in the cargo hold and go, yeah, this is my trophy. I mean, no shade to my boy Torres. I like the character. It just doesn't make sense. Why? This is completely different from how the Yacha hunt. And then you watch the next section and you find out this is not an anthology at all. All this is being strung together by the final act. All the warriors from the previous three sections are being unfrozen and thrown into a coliseum to fight to the death. And you ask yourself, why is Torres there? Oh right, they need a pilot to commandeer that spaceship so they can get off world. How's somebody who can pilot an airplane in World War II qualified to drive a spaceship off of an alien planet back to Earth? There's a little more than an ocean separating the two. And last time I checked, Yacha put fail-safes in all of their technology. A prime example. Yeah, I don't think they're getting off the planet. And what really irks me is it doesn't stop there. The writers could not help themselves. The survivors from the other films are being shown kept in cold storage for combatants in the arena. And I get this is probably just a cheap Easter egg, but the survivors of those films won their freedom. They won their chance at life. It cheapens what they accomplished in the other movies. And it just didn't sit well with me. And on top of that, the ending kind of feels forced and left open for future installments, which we probably won't be getting. On the face, it feels like this was meant to be a show, but I got crowbarred into being a movie by executives up on the top. It's kind of a missed opportunity if you ask me. If this project would have been made into a series like Love, Death, and Robots, with various animation studios handling different stories involving other hunters attacking different warriors all throughout time, that would have been awesome and would have been in the top 3 contenders for me if that was the case. But instead we got this, and it just feels like weak sauce to me. And then there's that damn flintlock pistol. I'm tired of seeing this thing. It showed up in 3 different films so far, and I'll get into that later. But kicking in at number 6, we got AVP from 2004. And I know some people will condemn me for putting this here instead of lower on the list. But as I see it, right here's where it needs to be. It's middle of the popcorn section because that's exactly what this movie is made to be. A simple action crossover to bring 2 sci-fi juggernauts, the Yacha and the Xenomorph, clashing together on the big screen for the first time ever. For this, their crossovers were relegated to panels of a comic book or one of the many video games, most famously the games by Rebellion and Monolith Entertainment. Those games were awesome, go play them. But the one that always stuck with me was the arcade cabinet, which I so happened to play at the Tinseltown Movie Theater in Monroe, Louisiana, when me and my dad went to watch this for my 13th birthday back in 2004. Me and my dad were hyped to go watch this movie. We are both big fans of the franchise, and seeing this for the first time in the big screen was just peak for us back in 2004. And when we came out, we still liked it, but we were picking it apart bad. There's a strong case that I have nostalgia goggles for this movie, and it would be fair for anyone to make that assumption. Since this story is practically a nothing burger, the Yacha activate a pyramid beneath the ice in Antarctica to lure human victims to become hosts to the Xenomorph so the 2 groups can have a free-for-all between each other while the human survivors just try to stay out of it. Objectively, this is basic as a crossover can be. And it is cool that they got Lance Hendrickson to play Charles Wayland. And even better, they tried to humanize this character. In this movie, Wayland is basically just a dude trying to make his mark on history before he kicks the bucket, and he's kind of got this grandpa vibe to him, and I like his interactions with Lex, the main heroine of the film. Plus, it's Lance Hendrickson. This dude could be sitting in the middle of an empty room reading a phone book and I'd be entertained. Yeah, the movie has its problems. All but 2 of these characters are throwaway. The major issue is that the movie was designed for marketing. Once you get past the action set pieces in the middle of the film that were solely designed for the trailers, the movie stops for an exposition dump about the temple and why the Xenos are there in the first place, and then it sprints to the end. There's a decent boss fight between the alien queen and the last Yacha. But the movie's not as cool as it could have been. Probably because it got this PG-13 rating instead of an R rating. And that's something me and my dad always made fun of. How do you take two franchises known for being hardcore rated R movies and dumb it down to a PG-13 movie? But the unforgivable sin that this movie commits, a single xenomorph soloing not one, but two Yacha. Yeah, the first one I get. He got the axe because he wasn't paying attention. But the second one too? In the span of 5 minutes? Yeah, no, go kick rocks, man. But other than that, that's what this movie is. A middle-of-the-road movie for the middle of this list. And speaking of middle of the road, we have Predator Badlands occupying number 5. This is a bit different from the other films, making Yacha Dek a protagonist and for the first time in the franchise history actually having a Yacha center stage. Dek is unceremoniously sent to a planet by his brother to avoid getting axed off by their father trying to cull the weakness from his own clan. Dek, being the smallest and the least skilled of the whole clan, marks him for death. Dek's older brother saves him by taking his place on the chopping block while also jettisoning Dek out into space using his own ship, so giving him the opportunity to regain his honor by taking down the prey even their father fears. It's not just the dangers of the planet that he has to worry about, he also has to worry about wailing tiny androids racing him to the finish line and taking his prey out from underneath him before he even gets the chance. Along the way, he's joined by a chatty bot named Thea and a mysterious creature that nobody can recognize. Now, I was kind of torn about this movie because at first I hated it, and then on a second viewing it kind of grew on me. I liked it. Then I went back to hating it again. Now I just feel indifferent to it. Each time I watched it, I couldn't wrap my head around what was bugging me so much until it finally hit me. This film is structured like a damn Marvel movie. They even included a cute mascot character and a sidekick who's meant to come off as quirky and chatty, but instead comes off as annoying and rage-inducing.
How fast were you going when your ship crashed? Faster than sublight speed? We haven't cracked that yet. Two warriors, Dek and Thea, on the hunt. We got him. And then we met you, our little sweet little thing. Thank you, seriously, for that experience. Truly amazing. Thrilling. Truly.
Would you shut the fuck up?
All I wanted to do was jam railroad spikes in my ears anytime Thea opened her exhaust port. She does mellow out at the halfway point, but those early scenes are rough to get through. If you're going into this movie expecting a traditional Predator film, you're in for some big disappointment because this is anything but traditional. The quiet scenes with subtle character development and build-up are railroaded by this go-go type of storytelling that you expect from Marvel. There's no time for anything to breathe. There's no room for you to interpret anything yourself. It's literally being spoon-fed to you. So my brain just started to pick this movie apart. Like, why does this clan have swords? Simple, so they can reuse the choreographer from the Star Wars project. And while they were at it, they just went ahead and spun in Weyland Yutani so they can build up their own AVP movie. Gotta keep that shared universe going. Oh, and Bud, well, he's kinda cute. He'll sell some toys, right? Not as much as Grogu, but he's marketable. And while you're at it, go ahead and set up that cliffhanger ending to tease the next story. That's the major problem I have with Badlands. It feels bought and paid for. Everything that Badlands has is a repackaged asset from another area underneath Disney's umbrella. Plus, this movie feels extremely safe, probably in an attempt to appeal as many people as possible, kind of like how AVP did. No real soul here. There's no risk in just an attempt to maximize the reward. However, despite me wanting to put this lower on the list, it does have elements that place it above the others. For starters, it actually uses the Yacha name in the movie. It explores more of their culture, even though it's kind of Disney-fied instead of the warrior respect that we got in the previous movies. But it at least made an attempt, and I actually appreciate that they made a Yacha as the main character in this movie. He does look kind of lame, but that seems to be par for the course these days. And I will admit, it really does have some cool scenes in this movie. But then it has some really lame ones too. And it's really strange that this movie feels so generic considering it's the director from Prey. Sliding into number 4, we have the 5th film in the standalone franchise, but the first film since Disney took over, Prey. And from this point, I'm out of the popcorn section and into the actual best films of the franchise. These are good films and I genuinely recommend them to be on anybody's watch list. And in fact, probably will rank in the top tier of many people's list. Now when Prey came out, it actually had a bit of a discourse around it, but the discourse is mainly just petty internet fights from people who really needed to chill. Some said the film was terrible and disrespectful to the franchise with some of the choices it made, while others said it was better than the original. I'm going to answer this by quoting a really ornery old man. I've got clowns on my left and jokers to my right. What they have in common is they're both full of crap. This film isn't better than the original. It's not disrespectful to the series. What it's trying to do is its own thing while embracing the original formula. For instance, the story is of a young Comanche girl named Naru back in the 7th century. She wants to be a hunter instead of a gatherer, but ends up taking on a bit too much for her first actual hunt. And that's pretty much the premise of the story. Just like the original Predator film, somebody goes in to do something, requires combat, encounters the Yacha, and has to fight for survival. However, this movie's plot is fairly simplistic. In fact, it's a little too simplistic in places for my liking. It never goes into why she wants to be a hunter, other than to prove to naysayers that she can be a great hunter. But I don't think that's the case, because the rest of the tribe really had no problem with her hunting in the first place. I mean, sure, the hunting party pokes fun of her when she first comes down, but that's hazing. And they do get in a fight about it later in the movie, but the problem is she's kind of doing this whole lone wolf thing instead of actually being part of a group. Conflicts will happen. And Naru kind of smarts off to her grandma or mama. What is she? It never really says. That's the problem with this movie. It doesn't talk about this stuff. Her grandma just hinted that she had talent as a healer and should foster that skill. A skill that she doesn't use at the end of the movie. But I think it's really needed to give an audience a why other than she wants to prove everybody wrong. Does she want to be a hunter because she wants to be with her brother to watch his back? Or does she want to feel closer to her dad, who's DOA by the way? I feel like that could have been fleshed out a little bit more, and a major problem in the long run since the movie lacks staying power. The sections where Naru is with her dog and she's trying to hunt or at least try to figure out things are kind of cool and probably some of the best early sections in the film. But the actual meaningful dialogue with the other characters, I forgot about it since the movie ending, so that means that nobody's going to be quoting it later anyway. I mean, there's this.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Those are the only real important issues I have with the movie. I got some nitpicks like, why base your movie around the Comanches but have everybody on foot? The best horse riders and cavalrymen of the 17th and 18th century were the Comanches. Why are they walking everywhere? It's such a tease. They know how good riders Comanches were because they have Naru's brother on horseback knocking the living crap out of a Yacha. But he gets off, and guess what happens?
I want to be the one inside of you.
Twisting the knife a little bit. And speaking of Yacha, this hunter is a beast. He is hunting everything from wolves to bears. He don't care. He literally parks his butt on the ground and kills a damn snake. Why? Because he can, or maybe he was just bored. But the nice cherry on top is he chooses to brawl with everything. This one doesn't just sit back in a tree and take shots at his targets. This one will decloak and fight face to face with everyone. He's pretty damn good at it. The scene with the French trappers was a good example of how cool this movie can be. The French as secondary villains kind of come off as cliche and cartoony, but they're French, so it fits. But this combat section is really entertaining and probably the biggest highlight in the film, aside from the ending. His kills are creative, but because he fights everything the way he does, he leaves himself open for punishment. And boy, does he screw up with some of his counters.
My name is Jeff.
And it's where the ending kind of got some criticism from some people. I feel like it's a return to form where the protagonist has to outthink the Yacha instead of fighting them head on. A good movie, but 4 is as high as it goes. But clawing its way to the number 3 spot is Predators. What do Yacha do when they don't want to leave their home system to hunt? Simple. They put up a game preserve, kidnap a bunch of killers from Earth, drop them in the middle of the preserve, and hunt them for later. And what I mean by drop, I do mean drop. This movie has one heck of a cast, teaming up big name actors like Lawrence Fishburne, Adrian Brody, Walton Goggins, Alice Braga, Marshala Ali, and Topher Grace. He's in there. Oh, and so's Machete himself, Danny Trejo. Why do I keep forgetting he's in this? Oh, right. He dies off screen early in the movie. He was doing Machete with Troublemaker Films, and this was also done by Troublemakers, so I guess they wanted to get as much off that contract as possible, huh? When this movie came out, it was a sleeper hit, doing well at the box office. Sure, not the big numbers that Fox wanted, but it was still successful, garnering a following and bringing some new fans to the series, plus launching new spin-off comic lines and novels. And unlike Prey, there are a lot of really good one-liners here.
You know, man, if we ever make it home, I'm gonna do so much fucking cocaine.
Yeah, Walter kind of gets the majority of them, but that was something that Prey was sorely lacking. Good banter between characters. That may have something to do with how serious the movie treated itself. The best movies in the series had a good balance when it came to humor. Too little and your movie comes off as dry, but too much and you get this garbage.
Everything okay back there?
I get this was a knee-jerk reaction to how goofy and Marvel-like the comedy was in the previous film, so the studio was course-correcting, going more of a serious tone. Ironic considering the direction they took Badlands with its dialogue, but Predators has a nice blend of banter and action, and in my opinion is the closest to catching the spirit of the first film. And just like the first film, it's better on repeat viewings. For example, every character in the movie is there for a reason. The big Russian mini guy is Spetsnaz, Danny Trejo is Cartel, Alice Braga is IDF Sniper, Brody is a Black Ops Mercs, etc., etc. Why is there a random doctor thrown in the group? Watching again, knowing the twist of his character at the end of the movie, you're given hints along the way, like the first interaction between the doctor and the rest of the group. He's asked the question, does he have anything to cut himself down with? His answer is,
Why would I? No, I don't.
A few minutes later passes and he does this. His first interaction is a lie. And also, what random doctor carries around a sharpened scalpel and surgery utensils in their pocket? Well, I can think of one. If I had to describe this movie, I'd put it as a battle royale with the Yacha hunting party taking out the world's deadliest killers. Well, except for one. I guess they were looking for a tank for the group, but could only find this guy. And he can't hit the broadside of a barn. On paper, I can't really fault this movie with much. The new Yacha introduced in the film are actually pretty damn cool. They use different tactics from the older version, plus the first film where they actually do have different clans hunting each other. But if I had to pick one issue, its one strength is its major weakness. The movie references the original a lot. Music cues to signal similar scenes to the original are a nice touch, but eventually it starts to get intrusive to the point it feels like member berries, like remember this, remember that. It's still a good film, it's just that I feel if it would have ventured away from the member berries, it could have been great. Taking the silver home is the most underrated film in the series, Predator 2. I don't understand why so many people sleep on this movie. I get it, it's overshadowed by its bigger brother, but the second film is just as influential as the first movie. Most of the gadgets and gizmos associated with Yacha came from this movie. The constricting nets, the smart disc, the combi stick, heck, even the multi-vision types they use in the AVP games came from this movie. And I have a sneaking suspicion that Predator 2 influenced one of the gangs in Saints Row 2, the Sons of Samdi.
You know,
This is a bad time to be f***ed up.
This movie had a lot of guts. Instead of going for the action story that we saw in the first movie, it goes for a pulpy cop story instead, focusing around Danny Glover's character playing as a vice cop in the middle of a gang feud on the hottest summer in LA ever seen. The heat and the urban combat draw the attention of the Yacha, who stalks Glover to a obsessive extent, killing his partners off and just being a living nightmare to everything and everyone around him. The best way to explain this Yacha is whereas the other ones were warriors with a flawed sense of honor, this one is a psychopath who would literally gut grandma because she's carrying a 38. Never mind that she couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, she's got a gun, therefore she's fair game. And we do have the infamous trophy room that spun off the AVP franchise with the Xenomorph skull. But on its own, this is also a good movie. If you compare it to the original, the characters can be a bit over the top as opposed to the flexing action heroes in that film. But you have to think, when Predator 2 came out, there was only 2 films. The series was still trying very hard to decide what it wanted to do with itself. The first film dropped a Yacha into an 80s action film. This is the same concept, but instead to drop a Yacha into the over-the-top pulpy cop story. It's got everything you want from a movie like this. Good kills, awesome one-liners, awesome action. Bill Paxton, Danny Glover, and there's also Gary Busey playing, well, himself.
He's on safari. Lions, the tigers, the bears. Oh my.
What is wrong with you? And of course there's that stupid flintlock that made its appearance in this movie. I swear if I see that flintlock in another Predator movie, I'm going to lose it. And to be honest, I really don't have that many negatives to lay on Predator 2, unlike many of the critics at the time who just hammered this movie hard, constantly complaining it wasn't the first film, dropping the jungle for a cityscape instead. Where else was it supposed to take that story? Go back to the jungle for another hunt again with Arnold Schwarzenegger? That's not film, and there's a reason for that. John McTiernan did not return to direct the second film. Instead, he was off doing something else. And we all know what that something else was. But because it wasn't the first film, they constantly dunked on it. And speaking of first film, that brings us to number 1 on this list. Alright, now come on, who didn't see this one coming? Of course the original film is going to be number 1. The first Predator film is a masterpiece of entertainment, ranked number 14 on IMDb's top 100 science fiction films of all time for a damn good reason. I don't think I need to tell the story of this movie, it's so well known, but for shits and giggles, why not? A special forces team led by Alan Dutch Schaefer, Arnold Schwarzenegger, goes into the jungle with a CIA liaison, Carl Weathers, on a covert op and comes in contact with something not of this world, resulting in the death of his entire team, with Arnold Schwarzenegger being one of the only 2 survivors. Predator is a perfect example of a flawless movie, but the one flaw that I thought it did have was the opening of the movie. At the very beginning, when you see the ship pass over the Earth, it kind of ruins the reveal at the end. But ironically, that shot has kind of aged in a way that's no longer a negative anymore. Everyone knows what the Predator is. Hell, they even know what's underneath the mask. So the one negative has become an establishing shot for the rest of the series. I guess if you had a stick up your ass, you can pick at the chroma key a little bit. That's not something the movie can help, and it's not like this movie needs much help to begin with. There are so many aspects of this film that would need to be covered in a solo video. Film professors use sections of this film to explain how camera work can transform a scene to play with the audience. For example, the scene where Dylan and Mac kick the bucket. Dylan is circling around trying to get a jump on the yacht, his last known position, to flush him out. But Dylan doesn't know that Mac kind of, What I'm talking about is this crawl right here that Dylan makes to what happened to Mac. It's very closed in. He's surrounded by this lush vegetation, and in his mind he's hidden. When he reaches his position, he looks across and sees Mac. Then the Predator teases him with that voice, spooking him, and the camera pulls out to a wide shot to where Dylan is on full display in center of the whole frame with nothing obscuring him at all, mirroring his train of thought that he's basically a sitting duck in the middle of hunting season. And that's just one of the scenes that's constantly referenced for the great camera work that this movie has. John McTiernan knew exactly what he was doing here. And the fun thing is, this movie also handled subverting expectations fairly well. Back in the 80s, people went in expecting to see a standard Arnie action movie, which you do get in the opening, but the shift happens very subtly. When the only survivor of that guerrilla encampment, taken prisoner by Dylan, makes the run for it, Hawkins gets separated chasing after her, kicking off the second half of the movie, which is a slasher film. A literal final girl trope kicking off the section of the movie that results in one of the most famous action stars assuming that role by the end. And that's why I didn't understand all the praise that Nara from Prey was getting. They're like, oh yeah, go get it, girl. If you take a few minutes to think about it, they just put a teenage girl in a final girl slasher situation. They reset the trope that the original bucked against. I still like Prey, and I believe it's one of the best films in the franchise, but I think people overrated it a bit too much and refused to point out some of its flaws, while Predator is properly rated for a good reason. The score is amazing. The characters could be action heroes in their own films by themselves. Well, except for Hawkins. He needs to go sit in the corner for a while. Plus, Predator is the one movie in the entire series that doesn't require you to go watch any other films to get complete enjoyment out of it, unlike several entries on this list that may require you to watch one or more movies to get the references or understand the significance of certain items. That flintlock for one. But you get my point. Predator is an amazing film that spawned a franchise mostly catering to its fans. But I wholeheartedly believe that the first is the best of all of them, and I doubt it will ever get knocked from its throne anytime soon. I do recommend Predator 2, Prey, and Predators. They're good movies. AVP, Badlands, Killers, they're good popcorn films, but they're really for die-hard fans of the series. While AVP Requiem and The Predator, stay away. Pretend they don't exist like I do. But that's all I got for today. Do you agree, disagree with my list? Tell me what you think in the comments down below. I'd actually like to hear what y'all think. And I got a feeling that some of them are going to be kind of spicy, especially with where I put Predator 2. Until next time, y'all take care.
You're one ugly mother.
You're a fat